imagine how satisfying it is.
Greatness awaits indeed. Anyways, welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another very exciting Spider-Man PS4, or should I say Spider-Man PS5 related video. And if you guys are aware, besides me being a massive Spider-Man fan ever since I was a kid, I also fully grew up on everything related to PlayStation. So given that there are quite a few announcements relating to the overall PlayStation brand in several categories of media, especially regarding the possible sequel of Spider-Man PS4 being a PlayStation 5 exclusive, I want to go over all of this news and thoroughly discuss where I think the future of gaming is headed. And given all of the recent statements regarding PlayStation, I think it's safe to say that we are in for a real treat in the coming years. Although, the first topic of discussion actually seems to be the closest compared to everything else. And of course, what I'm talking about relates to this footage, which primarily showcases what the next generation platform that Sony is going to develop for the future of the PlayStation franchise. And even though we don't have an official name as to what this platform is going to be called, I do have a strong feeling that it is going to be labeled the PlayStation 5. So in case you didn't know, the PlayStation 4 has been released ever since November of 2013, which means that it's almost been out for a total of 6 years. And even though there are still a few very exciting PlayStation exclusives which haven't fully released yet, like that of Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, and the much anticipated Last of Us Part 2, it is said that some developers have received the early dev kits for the PS5. Not to mention all of the major success that Sony has been having with the previously released PlayStation 4 exclusives of this generation, like that of Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Detroit Become Human, Days Gone, and of course the one and only Marvel Spider-Man. And speaking of Spider-Man, it turns out that game in particular was used as an example to showcase how the future tech is running on the upcoming platform. Specifically, there were reports stating previously that they tested out what the loading times for Spider-Man PS4 were during the fast travel sections on the PS4 Pro, which ended up being approximately related to 10 to 15 seconds. But on this newer platform, which we're just gonna call the PS5 for a simple understanding, is actually related to less than 1 whole second. And in this newest footage here, we do see how the frame rate is compared between the standard PS4 Pro and the newest platform that Sony is currently developing. So seeing how this early build of the PS5 isn't fully finished being developed yet, it just goes to show how amazing the games we're going to get in the future are going to be. Because as you see from this footage, the standard PS4 Pro build, while it does look beautiful, it doesn't have the smoother frame rate like it does on the PS5 build. And to follow up this footage, the main CEO of Sony did state, to ensure PlayStation will remain as the best place to play, Sony Interactive Entertainment will work on keeping and improving relationships with outside game developers. Furthermore, when they were asked what the primary features will entail regarding their next generation console, they did say that their main phrase relating to it is anytime, anywhere, without disconnections. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting a very Nintendo Switch-esque vibe from that particular statement, so there could be a possibility that the PS5 could play games at your house and on the go. And what's even better than that is that the main architect of the PS4 himself, of Mark Cerny, did state that backwards compatibility is a feature that they are planning for the next generation PlayStation, of course being the PS5, while also focusing a lot on next generation ray tracing. And what we know for a fact relating to both of those particular features is that the games in the future will look and feel more immersive than ever before. And mainly relating to backwards compatibility, it was rumored that we could get all compatible systems with the 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the PS5, and even though it's unconfirmed right now for the 1 through 3, we do know that the PlayStation 4 games will be able to run on the PS5. So for all of you PS4 owners out there who think you may have to get rid of your old games when you do get a new console, never to fear, because you will be able to play them once you do purchase the newest platform. And speaking of PS4, this is something that I'm actually really relieved by, because Sony did recently confirm that they do have plans to keep the PS4 alive for approximately 3 more years. So just like I stated previously, Sony still has a few AAA exclusives under development which are scheduled to release on the PlayStation 4 platform. And even though we don't have any specific release dates for those AAA exclusives, I do have a feeling that Sony will try and release them before they officially debut the PlayStation 5. Not only would it be a smart move from Sony to have each of these developers take their time to finish their games in order for them to release on the PS4, but that way that would officially end the PlayStation PlayStation 4 lineup of exclusives and then pave the way for what is in store for the future. Because if you've managed to play any of the recent PlayStation 4 exclusives, all of them almost set up a primary sequel for each of their stories. For example, there was definitely an open ending relating to Horizon Zero Dawn and where Aloy's story is going to go next, as well as the major threat that Kratos and his son Atreus are going to fight with, fighting off the God of Thunder, Thor himself. Not to mention, in the most recently released exclusive, Deacon St. John by the end of the game discovers a more evolved version of the Freaker species, which definitely sets up a sequel relating to that game's narrative. And of course, relating to our main man, Spider-Man himself, it definitely set up a bunch of awesome storylines relating to the sequel, of course with Harry possibly becoming Venom, Miles Morales being Spider-Man, Yuri Watanabe being the Wraith, and a whole lot more. So my gut is telling me, based off all of these exclusives and for playing the majority of them myself, I think Sony was planning this from the start so that way they could set up the future of these games on their next platform. Even though I'm sure that we're going to receive a bunch of new IPs from all the incredibly talented studios that worked on these previous exclusives in the coming years, I do think Sony has set this up to expand on all these franchises that people already love. And knowing that almost all, if not every one of these games is going to look even bigger and better on the future platforms just makes me incredibly excited for the future of the PlayStation console with the PS5. And to hit the nail on the head even further relating to the inevitable sequel of Spider-Man PS4, or should I say Spider-Man PS5, is that it is confirmed that Sony is actually looking for people to hire directly to work at Insomniac Games. And just in case you want to know the specific job which Sony is looking someone to employ for at Insomniac Games is none other than a senior audio designer. And to directly quote the details of the job itself, it states responsible for being an active and key contributor to the creative direction and style for audio assets and workflow processes throughout a production cycle, creates, edits, and implements game-ready audio, works closely with the rest of the audio team to maintain a high level of quality and consistency of assets. So even though this job is merely for an audio designer, this does tell me that Insomniac are gearing up for the next line of exclusives that PlayStation has in store. Now granted, this could easily relate to the other big PlayStation franchise that is exclusive to that platform, and one of the big Insomniac franchises of course being Ratchet & Clank. And even though both the recent Ratchet & Clank reboot as well as Spider-Man PS4 sold incredibly well and we could receive sequels to any if not both of these games, I do think the majority of the people who love all of Insomniac's titles are definitely wanting to see where their franchise is going to go next relating to Marvel's Spider-Man. However, I don't think we're going to be receiving the Spider-Man sequel anytime soon because, as I said, I can definitely see it as a PS5 exclusive as a launch title for when that platform does release. But still, it is nice to know that Sony and Insomniac are still hard at work to deliver the best games that they possibly can. And with all that said, I do want to briefly touch upon this really intriguing announcement that Sony has made, stating that a whole new company has been formed titled PlayStation Productions. And essentially what PlayStation Productions is going to be is a production studio to adapt its games for TV and film. And even though I won't fully go into details, I will leave a link in the description which fully breaks down everything that the main CEOs at Sony were discussing about this particular new brand. And even though I would much love to see what this would look like, I don't think we're going to be receiving a Spider-Man PS4 film or TV show, given that Spider-Man is already doing its own thing within the MCU. Still, I do find it interesting that they directly mention Marvel as a source of inspiration relating to that of possibly creating a PlayStation cinematic universe. So whether or not that means that we could possibly see Kratos and Cole McGrath team up in a specific TV show or film series, I have no idea, but I'm really excited to see where this is going to lead into. But regardless, I do think this is a very intriguing thing for PlayStation to do in order for them to expand on their already beloved franchises that gamers fully love. So obviously, besides seeing what a live-action interpretation of Spider-Man PS4 would look like, I definitely wouldn't mind seeing that of Infamous, God of War, Horizon, or anything else relating to the awesome PlayStation exclusives that we already have. And knowing that Sony is appearing to do everything they possibly can to fully deliver awesome AAA experiences for their gaming fan base, I'm definitely beyond hyped to see what's in store for the future. And with all that said, everyone, that's the video I have for you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. What do you think of all this crazy PlayStation related news, and do you think that Spider-Man will in fact be a PlayStation 5 exclusive by the time the sequel comes out? As I said previously, I definitely think that Sony knew from the beginning that they were going to have extremely successful franchises on their hands, and they're definitely going to expand upon that by the time the next generation platform is released. And knowing that we're going to get sequels for not just Spider-Man, but also most definitely God of War, Days Gone, and Horizon Zero Dawn, amongst others, is just an amazing time to be a gamer in general. And even though it is sad to say that PlayStation won't be attending E3 this year, which does occur in June, I can definitely see why that is the case. And even though we may have to wait a while until we can get our hands on any one of these sequels, I definitely think the wait will be worth it. And with all that said, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans, and peace out.
You have no idea what you're in for.